Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Night Bully Talk. We have a very exciting guest to have on here. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, but now is a great opportunity to get to know him. So without further ado, we would like to allow our guest to introduce himself, give us his kennel name, in case anybody didn't know what it was already. And then we also like to have you tell us how you got into bullies in the first place. Take it away.
All right. Well, my name's Robert Lee. Been breeding American bullies for 18 years now. Located out here in Southern California. And when I first got started, the kennel name is Bully Market for those that don't know. When I first got started in the breed, I just had a couple pit bulls, and I was in my teens when I got those dogs. And I would tell my friends, I'm going to breed pits one day. I just had a little apartment and I had my two pit bulls, and I just loved their energy and the loyalty. And at the time, obviously in an apartment, not feasible for breeding. But as I got a house and I started to look more into it, and I went over to a friend's house who he had what we called back then a blue nose pit bull. And he always had one whenever I would go over there. But then one time I went to his place and I looked in his backyard and he had about 10 monster pit bulls in the back. And I was just like, yo, what is this? What are these dogs? And he said, they're bullies. And I'm like, bullies, huh? And he told me a little bit about them. At the time, I was already starting to look into blue nose pits. And then he showed me about bullies. And he told me he was going to introduce me to his mentor. And so I went over to his place at a later time and met his mentor. I was getting ready to meet his mentor, and in walked the old security guard for my high school. And I'm like, oh, it was a little awkward. Like, this guy used to cart me off to the office and, get me in a little trouble on campus. And but his name was Richard Patterson, Big Rich. And so that was the guy that really schooled me on, this breed when it was still in its infancy. At the time, the term American bully was not as solidified. But he just showed me a lot of the different gene pools. One of the dogs over there at my buddy's house, he co-owned. His name was King Louie, and that was actually the littermate brother to Dogtown's or Santana's homie, which was my first foundation bully, pretty much.
Nice. And that's grand champion homie, right?
Yeah, at the time he was just regular old Santana's homie. And then, yes, after a bit of showing, we put a grand champion title on him. We did a lot here in the Western region, mostly the Southwest, but we would go up to like Oregon and Washington too. And then in 2012, we hit the road for 6 weeks. Homie had just won best champion, or no, he had just won best champion under Rolando Mata in Las Vegas. He competed for best of breed and lost to Clydesdale. Beastro was a class dog, and he was the best pocket. And shortly thereafter, in January, we went on a 6-week trip, California to Texas, Texas to South Carolina, South Carolina to Florida, Florida to Georgia, Georgia back up to South Carolina, and then back home. And we
Also,
Beastro had left a class dog. He came back a grand champion, and
Nice.
Homie left a champion, and he came back a grand champion as well.
So let me ask you this before we go too much further, Robert.
Yeah.
What was the show world like then compared to now? Like going in the ring, what was the atmosphere then? I know it was more, it seemed like a more of a community thing then, or was it, or this before that? Was this like, was it bare bones? Was it all, all
The shows
politics or all-
were the shows were huge.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
They were massive.
God.
It went, I haven't really done a lot of showing in recent years, but as I slowed down, it was kind of depressing to see like what it was starting to get to, because 1,000 people at an event was very normal.
Wow.
It was, that, because when I started, the exotics had not yet hit the scene.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was a lot of people. There were still people that bred, a more, at that time, what was considered a more terrier dog. And then you had some guys that were breeding the more monsters. But at the end of the day, we all showed up to the same place.
Yeah.
And as the breed started to evolve and people started to really shift the styles that they were breeding for, the community really started to get more fractured. And so instead of everybody showing up to one event, now we have so many registries, and with each registry,
Yeah.
there's a lot of their own supporters.
mhm.
So it's something that's very interesting to me, because when you look at like Google Trends and you type in American Bully, it has been going up, up, up. Globally, it's getting more and more popular. Yet at the time, the show's attendance just kept getting lower. And so, I think it's more just like a thing that happened within the community, because there's still a lot of people interested in these dogs, and I think still a long ways to go before they're totally like mainstream.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert. Hey, I didn't mean for the let it get this far, but hey, man. Hey, I liked it. Love the intro. That's a beautiful intro, and it seems like a lot of people that we have on had pit bulls. 75% of the people started off from pit bulls, and and the thing is that as a bully community, we see these dogs grasping for our eyes that change. And just like you said, hey man, what are those? What are those? And they caught our attention, and now we forgot about the pit bulls. We don't even want to own the pit bulls anymore. The bully is in our heart now, and that's what we desire, to breed. And I didn't know you was in the dog game for 20 years that long, cause I prejudge people about, well, look like he been in the game probably about 10 years, something like that. That's just a habit I got. No,
It's 'cause you
hey,
look young.
I'm just saying, no below the belt punches, but I was in there for a long time. You know what I'm saying? I think I've been breeding dog now. It's 40 plus years, but I have seen trends change, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff change. People change, but I like change for the better. You know what I mean? So to speak. But I just wanted to compliment you on that intro, man. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and one of the things that I felt especially compelled to like highlight is for you, because whether or not people know a lot about you and your program, when I say that we've lost count of the dogs that you're essentially responsible for bringing out, and putting the light on, and then putting into all these bloodlines and everything, we lost count. Like, you started out with Homie, but with that foundation, like you, generation by generation, you created all of these phenomenal dogs. And some people don't realize that specific dogs actually came from your blood, came from your program. I mean, Lock and Load, for example. I mean, that's a homie son, is it not?
Correct.
Wow. And what's homie's pedigree? Like, where does he come from? Because I know you said Santana, but like, what dogs
So homie was a Razor's Edge,
Mhm.
a Razor's Edge dog. He was from Thing. Diego's Doing Big Things, bred to Santana's Trendy. And Trendy was the litter mate's sister to, Mr. Heartbreaker, which that Nemesis and Black China breeding produced Mr. Heartbreaker. And there was a few nice dogs in that litter. You know, Mr. Heartbreaker was before his time. With a dog with a pedigree like that, a headpiece like that, that type of mass and girth, he was very a standout dog.
Yeah.
And so,
time.
yeah, so homie was, or Diego's Doing Big Things was bred to a Heartbreaker sister, and Sammy Santana did that breeding here in El Centro, California. And he was also the producer of Heartbreaker. And there was another dog in that litter, and her name was Token. And Token was bred to homie to produce Lock and Load. So Lock and Load is a
Nice.
double bred on the Nemesis and Black China strain.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see if I've got images of your.
Do this blood come from Razor's Edge?
So my foundation, my original dogs, yeah, he's a Razor's Edge.
Okay, that sounds like some of the lineages that I remember.
I was gonna say that dog right there looks like it came from Razor's Edge.
Oh yeah. This is very, very,
Yeah.
very strong.
Very,
Beautiful
very,
strong.
very classic Razor's Edge phenotype right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful animal.
Beautiful dog, yeah.
He was a very nice boy, really good movement, nice wide rib cage, good bone. But when you look at where we were headed and where that stock came from, there was some things that I wanted to improve on, particularly in the headpiece.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so from there, I started to incorporate some, through Beastro, there was some Van Pelt and some Knollwood blood. But from there, I really started to lean into the Rock and Ruby strain.
Who is that right there?
Mhm.
That's Beastro.
He's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was when he was about probably like 9 or 10 months old right there.
Wow.
Young and beefcake for no reason. I love it.
Yeah, he was a special boy.
His head proportions there to be are impressive to be so young. He's so young there.
Mhm.
And and you did say Norwood blood. Is that from the pit bull side?
Yeah, it was from more of the like you know, when you really look in the back of the pedigree on a lot of my stuff, I mean, it truly goes back to UKC old, you know, original stock.
I remember.
And behind Thing is Manu, and if I'm not mistaken, Manu was dually registered UKC and AKC.
Yeah, I think PR, yeah.
Okay.
And so, you know, that stuff was really true to the narrative that these dogs were pit bulls and Amstaffs, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
Obviously, there was a little element of like more bone, of course. But when you look at that pedigree and when I would line breed that stuff, I would express some of those more, you know, terrier types of traits. You know, my top picks would be phenomenal in a lot of cases, but as I would get into the lower stuff, is a little bit more terrier than I wanted, and so that's when I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. And at the time, you had Kingpin line, which
Yeah.
was, you know, the G2 blood.
Yeah.
You had Romeo blood,
Yeah.
which was, you know, behind Dax and the West Coast Gotti line stuff. Them dogs had
Yeah.
some crazy heads.
Yeah.
And then you had the Rock and Ruby that
Yeah.
was, you know, those were like some of the top strains really producing some of that, you know, newer, more bullier look. And I opted for the Rock and Ruby because with it being a fair amount of razor's edge in there, I figured that, you know, I'm gonna lean into this strain first. That way I'm not doing a hard outcross and really busting everything up and break up my consistency.
Nice.
And so yeah, that's
So
homie Lock and
so
Load and
Speaking of
Beastro.
so look, Robert. When you went to the Rock and Ruby side, did you lose any headpiece in the head size?
Um no,
You did it.
no. Um no, not really. Because when I look at when I was looking at my stuff, I really I wanted to like improve pretty much all the aspects of the headpiece. I wanted to add size. I wanted to add blockier shapes, better muzzles, better top skull and stop. Um, but and at the, you know, at the time, G2 and Dax would have definitely given me more, or and the Romeo and Dax strain that would have given the size, but I feel like it would have really kind of I wouldn't have had the consistency that I was going for. It was a absolute hard outcross. And so, you know, with the Rock and Ruby, I leaned into the OGSS Tonka Blood, Rockzilla, and Gina Jules. And I felt like those were the top three producers. You know, Pimp Suit, Tuxedo. He was a nice dog, but
Tuxedo, yeah.
he didn't have as many productions. And
Yeah.
I was seeing a lot of stuff nice off of Tonka, Rockzilla, a lot of nice stuff. And then, you know, Gina Jules was that Exhibit Blood strain. When Gina Jules was bred to Excalibur, that was
Yeah.
really producing some impressive stuff too. And so, you know, I did multiple things to really lean into that gene pool so I could do some breedings with homie or with by the time I was doing that, I had already kind of shifted into pockets.
Yeah.
I had on that long trip that I was telling you about. That was the time that I was like, you know, it was a long trip, and I drove the whole way. Homie was a pretty big boy, was pushing, you know, 90 pounds. Um, and man, lifting that big ass dog into the you know, we had a lifted truck.
Yeah.
And I'm getting out at every rest stop, lifting him up. And then, you know, meanwhile, Beastro is just hopping into the little driver side. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to focus on the pockets from here. It
So
was,
look, so that changed your mind because of a bigger dog. You didn't want to lift up in a lifted truck. You want
Hey,
pocket.
listen, priorities, Bruce. Priorities.
you
Oh
know, like
man.
I still can appreciate, because when I first started, I was looking at Mugglestons. You know, when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
typed in Blue Nose back in the day,
Yeah.
Mugglestons would pop up number one, and they're talking about 145 pounders,
That's off a logo.
28-inch heads. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want. But then as I started owning the dogs and doing my things with them, started having kids, I decided pocket bully, much more practical for, you know, what I'm trying to do. and to me, much more practical for the consumer, the end consumer, which is the pet market.
Yeah.
You don't need a big place to have yourself a nice little pocket bully.
No, absolutely. And then I this is a lifestyle breed, I feel. And like you have a lot of people that like the XL is their jam, but for the most part, a lot of them have a decent amount of space for them. So they can definitely, manage that. But just like you said, not everybody is going to be able to manage that, or the neighborhood that they live in, or their children being of a smaller size, just stuff like that. So I totally get it. Don't let Bruce bother you.
And I aesthetically, I like the little guys. I've always aimed to maintain a good form and functionality with them. That's important to me. I'm on a 10-acre
Yeah.
ranch here in the high desert. I'll keep a few dogs inside, but my dogs are outside year round. I hear about, a lot of people that they can't let their dogs out for 20 minutes before it comes in gasping for
Yeah.
air in 80-degree weather. And I'm like, yeah, they wouldn't make it out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dry.
Yeah, one of the things I saw on your page that I really, really loved, and you share it, I think every single time it pops up on your memories possibly, but you have pockets that run obstacle courses.
Yeah. So my top viewed video on YouTube is a pocket of the 2015 #1 ranked dog in the ABKC and the 2017 national winner, the Bus. And that's off of Beastro, bred to a heavy bred exhibit blood female.
Nice.
And that exhibit stuff, it's not like excessively hot, but it'll have some ball drive. And so, I play with the flirt pole with them a lot. I like to do stuff with my dogs. I got a pretty big hill on the property here. I go hiking up there and with the kids and the family, and I like my dogs to come up there and join me.
Yeah.
So yeah, the functionality that's Bus. He was a special dog.
Yeah,
Wow.
Very good
Look at
producer.
that
Nice
dome.
headpiece on
a
that
nugget.
dog.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
a nugget right there.
He was
One of the things that drawed me to the American Bully in the beginning was the fact that we do have the different classes. That's one of the things that set this breed apart for me. And I love them all. The pockets, the standard, the classics, the XLs. And in recent years, I've become a big fan of the Shorty Bull too. And so I just think it's really cool that we have, uh, you know, we have those different things. We're the only ones that have that quite like
so
that.
when I first started showing, um, which was in 2008, uh, all the dogs would enter one class.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they started to create the varieties.
Mhm.
And at the time, the pocket was still called a pocket pit. Yeah, yeah. The pocket pit. I think I probably got trophies from back then where it's best pocket pit male. But yeah. So that dog right there that you showed, he had a profound impact on the program and that rock and ruby stuff. So just to circle back to when you asked about my bloodline and what it consists of, that first foundation that I selected was Razor's Edge, and then I really leaned in pretty heavily to the rock and ruby strain. And once I started kind of dialing that in, I incorporated some Dax line through Phenom. I bred to Phenom 3 times, and I acquired a inbred Phenom daughter. And
Nice.
that is pretty much, working those productions because I don't really, after I did those breedings, I haven't really bred off my yard much. That was about 10 years ago.
Nice.
And so that's pretty much what my line consists of.
I
So
love
so
it.
so Robert, look, let me ask you this: since you only just use your dogs on your yard, right? Or you know your program, you know how to breed. Are you scared to bring in another bloodline? I just want to hear this from you because you got some people that I cross a lot more than they should, and I don't know, maybe they're trying to bring in a certain different trait, or
Well,
so
Or
go
you
that's
ahead.
a
even got
good
people that won't go outside of they won't outcross enough,
Breathe too tight.
Yep.
Yeah, then
yeah,
making messes.
that's a good question. No, I'm not scared. Um, at the same time, at this stage, it's not a lot of true bloodlines out
There we
there.
go.
Anymore. That's right.
And so, but when I do breed out, I don't want just a nice looking dog. I want a nice dog that comes from a family of dogs where their phenotype represents that genotype.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so when that's why when I referred to the rock and ruby, I used the term I leaned into that blood. I
Hmm.
brought it in through multiple different ways so that way I could eventually tighten up on it. And then that's
because right when you have a dog's phenotype so tied to their genotype, like you said, like you have that history of that look in that program, when you pull it in, that you're more likely to get it.
Consistently throughout the entire litter.
100%.
Yes.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
when you got a tighter bred dog, the pull is going to be limited. Versus if it's scatterbred, it could pull all sorts of different ways. And
Yep.
it's not to say you can't have a litter full of nice dogs,
Right.
but it might be six nice dogs that all look
Different.
like different aspects of that pedigree.
Hmm.
It pulls your consistency level up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and
Yeah.
then what it sounds like you did, and correct me if I'm wrong. What it sounds like, obviously, you'd mentioned bringing it in on multiple different ways, and by doing so, in essence, you have created your own outcrosses almost by introducing new blood, here and there. But for the most part, that same foundation is still there. Does that sound like kind of what you did? Is that
Well, yeah. So everything that I have is still deriving from the original stuff that I started with.
yeah?
Um, because at the time when I did start, there was still a lot of terrier elements in these dogs,
Mhm.
and specifically with some of my old stuff. And so I bred my stuff, and I would line breed it, and I was looking at what it was good about, produce basically what it was producing and what I liked and what I wanted to improve on. And so when I wanted to lean into a strain of dogs, I wanted to lean into a strain of dogs that was consistently producing the traits that I was looking to improve on, while simultaneously leaning on my foundation stuff to hopefully improve on those dogs where some of those monsters, very impressive and bully, but we there was some refinement that needed to be done in the structural area.
Yeah.
And so it's a balance. And my the with the dogs that I chose in the beginning, it gave me the ability to because they were so, for the most part, structurally sound, really nice movement. It gave me the ability to take some calculated risks and,
Yeah.
you know, get that balance that today is more of a bona fide American bully.
Mhm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, look, let me ask you this. So
I'll
I
be
ain't
right
trying to
back.
take over y'all, but that's the reason I asked you. They bred Rock and Ruby, I don't know how many times. It seemed like they just couldn't. because that dog Rock and Ruby produced together, right? So even Timothy St. Clair, we had him on that they was just lacking headpiece. They had the body, they had the structure, but the headpiece wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? And when they used to breed back then, they always repeated the breeding like 4 or 5 times, right? So, and what you think about this? So when they repeated the breeding, like just say for instance, everything came out great the first breeding, 8 puppies that came out really really great, right? So they repeated it again, they got something different. They repeated it again, they got something totally
So
different from
weird.
the first time. So that's why I don't think people repeat breedings a lot now. But that was the thing. That was the thing back in the day. They always repeated the breeding, just like Rock and
They
Ruby.
want to strike gold on more than one occasion, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's a it's a
yeah,
mine. It's a mine. You don't know what's every tunnel's a little bit different, and that's the thing. It's like genetics are flipping weird, and sometimes it's like just like you said, Bruce. I see fewer repeat breedings as of late than I've seen in a while. Like people just basically, I feel like they kind of stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and just as you described it, I think that's for good reason. Because again, the inconsistency of it from litter to litter, not necessarily from each litter, the dogs within it themselves compared to one another. But yeah, obviously, a different litter is going to yield different results entirely. You don't know how, you don't know why, it just happens.
And so
Well,
maybe your outcross with the Ruby with the Dax blood to Rock and Ruby blood was great.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
well, the Rock and Ruby strain was crossing really well with a lot of different stuff at the time.
Mhm.
I mean, saw a lot of nice specimens. Even when before George that had Miyagi, before he went heavily into the exotic stuff, he was breeding a lot of Tonka and Rock and Ruby blood, and there was some crazy dogs that were the Miyagi stuff to the Rock and Ruby stuff that was really impressive.
Yeah.
It's went a whole different direction at this point now with that particular dog, but that Rock and Ruby, I wasn't aware that breeding was done multiple times.
Yeah. He done
That's
it a few times.
I knew that Short Shot and Diamond was done multiple times, but I wasn't aware of the Rock and Ruby being done
Yeah,
multiple times. But
about 3 or 4 times, I think, if I can remember.
interesting. Hmm.
It's a bit crazy. It's a bit crazy, but those were different times. One thing I am curious about is, when you do produce these dogs, and obviously it's like when you have the ones that you produce in house. Um, for the ones that ultimately get produced out of house, like so you are studying out because you've just had gorgeous studs throughout your tenure. So obviously people want to use them. Beastro was used quite a lot. Lock and Load was used quite a lot. The bus, obviously. So when it comes to people coming to you and like, hey, I really want to use your stud, how selective were you with the bitches that people would kind of petition you for?
Well, it's a good question. In the first part of my, say, the first half of my breeding career, I was still doing a lot of showing, and so when people would see the dogs at the shows and they were winning a lot of shows, people would want to reserve breedings right there on the spot.
Yeah.
And because we were campaigning, I campaigned 4 years in a row. And when I say campaigned, I mean at a show almost every single weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm talking probably, at the time there was a lot more shows. And so almost every weekend we were out there, and I bred out quite a bit more. There was the dogs were essentially fueling their own campaign. And
Yeah.
after I stopped showing, I kind of stopped breeding outside of my yard for the most part. As I was doing some of the outcrosses that I mentioned and really trying to hone in on my look,
Yeah.
I saw it as being more beneficial to keep what I was doing more exclusive so I could really dictate the results. Because, you know, you could be selective and pick two nice dogs, but just because they both look nice doesn't necessarily mean that the puppies are going to be equally as nice.
That's exactly
And
right.
so early on, I did get a fair amount of criticism, you know, where people saying, he don't know how to breed. But I mean, this shit takes time. Like at the
That's
time
right, man.
I didn't know how to breed. I mean, I was only a few years, I was only a few years into this.
Trial and error.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. And at the end of the day, it's like you know, with a science experiment, you
Yeah.
come up with a idea of mixing, you know, doing something, and you have a
Uh-huh.
hypothesis
Yeah.
of what of what the result of that experiment is going to be, and either your hypothesis was valid or it was invalid.
100%.
And so, you know, over time through trial and error and paying attention to, you know, what strains was producing what, I got a pretty good hang of it. And yeah, after it was after Bus and I closed him and Beastro was getting old, I really started to turn down a lot of breedings and just really focus on my yard.
Yeah.
And as I did that, the look that came from my dogs just became more and more refined and consistent. And so now I'm kind of at the point where everything has been line bred pretty well, and they're going to give a pretty hard pull considering how they're bred.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm starting to work with some more people that are outside my kennel and do some breedings again.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm a little bit partial. I actually have a Beastro great grandson by way of Grand Champion Slim Shady. So you know, it's one of those things where that look. When we talk about consistency, there are some dogs that you have now in your program where like they have similar facial structures and, you know, just facial expressions and, you know, to my pocket. And it's fun to see that because there's, you know, that there are generations apart, you know, they are distant cousins at this point and they still look that sharply alike. It's very, very, very interesting to see. But that's
it is. You know, I've made some changes, but I feel like overall it's still pretty similar to what I had back then. Like I said, really what I was aiming to do was just improve the overall consistency. And at this point, you know, now down to the last picks, I'm getting, you know, the features that I like. It's not to say that there's not room for improvement on them all, but the consistency is pretty good across the board.
Nice. Now we actually have a couple questions here. One of which is actually kind of an interesting question. When it comes to the blood on your yard, Beastro in specific, I don't remember whether or not I saw this in his pedigree, but does he have any blood with Denzel at all?
No.
I can't remember. Okay, gotcha. Well, that answers that. But Malik was asking, compared to what you had in mind when you started, how did the actual process go? in the dog game in reality. I'm sure, obviously, you hit every milestone you set, but what was it? What you believed it would be, or was it better or worse? Like, did the way everything kind of
Hypothesis.
panned out
Yeah.
be what you expected?
Are we referring to the breeding or the business?
Well, just your program.
Mm.
Did your path of your program follow your plan? What
Yeah.
you projected?
Yeah. So, yeah, good question. And this is a takeaway that I share with a lot of people. When you do a breeding and you have a vision, I know a lot of people, they don't like
Yeah.
the term "my vision."
Yeah.
I look at the vision as the route that you're taking to reach the standard, right? People say, it's not about your vision, it's about the standard. Well, the standard is the goal, but the vision is how you
Get
are
there.
planning on getting there. And so when I did those phenom breedings, I was in the process of, I had just finished Beastro's second #1 campaign, and I was in the middle of the bus's #1 campaign. And so naturally, I of course I wanted, man, I want the next #1 dog
Yeah.
off this breeding that I do. And when I did the phenom breedings, I didn't get that. Um, and me wanting that next dog that was going to just immediately carry the torch and reach those levels. If I would have just stuck to that, then I would have sold, some of the dogs that I ended up keeping. I ultimately decided, all right, it's not a bistro, it's not a bus, but we still have something to work with here. I got some of the traits that I am looking for. And I did this breeding. I did these breedings for a reason. Work the
Yeah.
program.
There you go.
Work the program. And so I had a vision of like what I was hoping for in that cross. Didn't quite have it in the initial outcross, but as I worked the productions and bred them together, I eventually got to, the dog that I have in my house right now, which is Badman. And he's a pretty good example of a pocket bully. And that's pretty much like what I was aiming for. And it's like I said, it's not like I was drastically trying to change
Right.
what I had in my best stuff. I was really just aiming to maintain that while simultaneously improving on the bottom half of the litters.
Yeah.
Because, back then those terrier traits would come out a little bit more.
Well,
Aha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Someone was curious, talking about some outcrosses. Did you do an outcross with the mountain?
I did.
Oh, how did that turn out?
We got some nice pups. So I do a lot of co-owns.
Yeah.
When I don't, pretty much, if the dog doesn't make my cut for me to breed it, then I pet home it. In some cases, even if it does make my cut as a potential breeder, because of where I'm at in my program, I'm still open to companion homes, good companion homes. I really like the companion homes. Um,
and what do you define as a companion home?
just a home of somebody that's just going to love the dog and they have no interest in breeding.
Right.
Yeah.
And
In
you maintain breeding rights, right?
in a strictly companion, no, I'm not breeding. In a co-own, then yeah, I'll still have some breeding rights. And so in my co-owns, I'll have people that some of them they just want to breed my bloodline, and I'm here to help them do that to the best of their ability. There's other people that want to take my bloodline and put their own
Name
twist
on
on it
it. Yeah.
or use my line to help create their line,
Their
and
line.
I'm here
Very
to
right.
help them do that to the best of their and our ability. And so yeah, I had a co-own Badman daughter um up in Alaska with Ruthless Bullies. We bred to the mountain, got some nice
Nice.
puppies.
Yeah.
I have a little female that is with a buddy that I have on a co-own. And yeah, I like that dog. He's impressive. I haven't seen him in person, but I like the dog.
Beautiful bull.
Impressive.
He is.
Very,
Yeah.
very impressive.
I'd probably put him in my top 10. He's a beautiful dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I look at him and
He
I,
produces well.
I think he could be very useful.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah, the mountain. Samson is also a phenomenal producer when it comes to duplicating himself. So I kind of put those two big bowls in the same category. But yeah, that
So
was a
let me ask
good
you.
choice for that prize.
Let me ask you something here. So when somebody's building a program and they're obviously working a line, do you think it's beneficial for somebody to kind of have two main bloods that they work as their two main lines, and then have like an outcross line that they tie to, if possible? Or do you, or how do you recommend on that?
Well, I mean, to truly create a true bloodline, you got to take multiple bloodlines, and you have to have a consistent look.
Right.
And so if someone were to want to create their own line, then I would, to put it as simply as I could, I would recommend that you take multiple dogs, uh, take your dogs from multiple lines, but that have different genotypes but express similar phenotypes. So that way, even if you are outcrossing genetically, this family of dogs has the tendency to produce a similar type as this family of dogs. That way,
Yeah.
even though you are outcrossing and that's going to open up your pull
Yeah.
with the pedigree, you would still be essentially line breeding traits.
Nice.
Right. So two main lines that are phenotypically complement each other, and then but two different lines, and then you can tie in another blood as needed to try to pull in something on
Well,
either
and I
side.
think yeah, and I think the key word there is as needed. I'm
Yeah,
gonna let the results dictate what I need to do.
There you
Nice.
go.
a
I
hundred
like that.
percent. And I'm in a
So
situation now where like I'm really happy with the litter, and everybody's asking me like, well, what now? Well, I gotta I really need to look at the way things turn out
Yeah,
before I
way to develop.
decide what now. I mean, I could, I got all these ideas, but it really depends on the dogs and how they turn out. What they,
Mhm.
I'll look at them at 16 weeks and so on, and maybe even further than that, and see kind of where I'm at, and what I'll actually need at that point, what I feel like I have, and what I feel like I still need to bring in, or what there. But yeah, even if you're playing chess, you can think ahead and think moves ahead and look at different options and
All
keep an
depends
eye
on
on the dogs you like, but you really got to know what you have and where you're at to know what your next move is. And I think, like I shot at a lot of things that I hit on this breeding. Like I brought in a lot of things, hope to bring in a lot of things that actually that I did hit on, and so now I have to see what transpires in order to determine my next move. It feels like.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, the results are going to tell you what you need to do next.
Right.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Are there so obviously, you know, you've done some work using the mountain. Are there any other kind of dogs out there right now, or even ones that are up and coming that you kind of been eyeballing, like maybe that next?
Well, yeah, there's definitely some nice dogs out there. And you know, on my yard, I'm pretty much just breeding my stuff to my stuff. Um, right now, I'm trying to strike this balance of getting some more stuff going for my living OGs before they're too old. Then I got this wave of up and comers that I'm wanting to get them some action, and then I got all this frozen semen from my legends that
Yeah.
I don't want to let that wait for too much longer either. So, I have a lot of that going on, but yeah, there's some dogs out there that I can appreciate how they look, and like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot of true bloodlines. When I do outcross, I look for something that's not just a dog, but a family of dogs.
Mhm.
And so, muscle tone is a pretty impressive line of dogs. Hats off to Bashar for,
Yeah. You know what you're
um,
getting from him. You know what you're getting every time you go to Muscle Tone.
and it's, and I think that, those dogs, depending on where you're at with your
Yeah.
program and what you need, those dogs bring quite a bit to the table. So I'll, I tend to keep an eye out for nice, tightly bred, muscle tone dogs.
Yeah.
And then, there's a few others that I like as well. I know there's quite a bit of controversy around the golden child. But I've seen quite a few impressive phenotypes
Hmm.
off of that. Um,
No denying that.
so I keep my eye on that, and at the end of the day, like all of these dogs have areas where they're going to need improve, or they need improvement, and if that dog itself is the absolute epitome of the standard. If you look at the mom and the dad and where the grandparents came from, most likely they needed something. Like maybe that dog is totally it, but right behind it, there's
Yeah.
probably something there, right? That needs improvement. And so I've been around for a long time, and along the way there's always been um a lot of hate on dogs that were really kind of carving out their lane. And
Mhm.
so I think as breeders, it's just up to us to do the breeding work and improve on the dogs, improve on the breed.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that because it's something that we've talked about multiple times. With multiple people, is that no dog is perfect, and so you've got to be willing to be very critical of your own stock and not be kennel blind, and always strive to make little improvements, even if it seems little. It can change the entire pathway, of your program. So it's the fact that you understand that, and you're open to it, and you're striving for that's again, it says a lot about you. So that's why you've been doing this for as long as you have, honestly.
Well, and I appreciate that. I've came to the conclusion that there's always going to be breeders that are willing to push this like a little further than I'm willing to, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Um, I've never had the biggest. I've never had the smallest. I've never had the heaviest. I've never had the
Right.
biggest head. Right.
Balanced.
It's always been about balance for me, and that's really what I aim for, and especially because I do put my dogs in a lot of companion homes.
Mhm.
Like these dogs are like family. People, the average person, they have periods of their life, and they might have a dog or two for this 10, 15 year stretch,
Mhm.
and that dog, it experienced so much with that person. It means so much to that person and that family. So when I say that I I'm okay with the fact that there's always going to be people willing to push it further.
Mhm.
Um, I'm keeping my clients in mind and trying to give them, an impressive dog, but also a healthy dog, a durable dog that's going to last. The last thing I want to hear about is, the family, they just lost their dog at a couple years old. That's going to be devastating to the kids. I know as a breeder, we tend to be a little numb to loss after a while. And it's not like that for the average
Yeah.
person. They're getting tattoos, creating shrines, and shedding tears,
Yes.
Yeah.
waiting years before they get another dog sometimes.
Mhm.
And I
Yep.
and I take that responsibility, pretty seriously.
I
Um,
respect
be,
that.
because yeah, like just recently, within the last few years, I've been getting a lot of calls from people that got dogs from me in the beginning, and they're like, he's 12, 13 years old now. He's not going to be around much longer, man. I just want to thank you. He's been a great dog. I'll be ready for another one soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Derp,
so
that's big. That's
Yeah,
big.
that's a big deal, man. I
Help.
really like what you said a minute ago about, if you bring in something, you like for it to be, for their camp to be pretty consistent, because you feel like that's more likely to pass those traits. I think people, like you said, there's so much, there's not even hardly bloodlines anymore, and so I think people have lost sight of that. And I've started referring to it as sticky blood, and like some people have this sticky blood where if it's anywhere in there, you can see it on the dog,
Yeah.
because they've bred and bred and bred this look. And it might even be an outcross of their stuff and still push through against a line bred dog, because it's been bred in their lineage for so long that that look is sticky.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
sure.
seems it seems like those camps. Shout out to my guy Peter Stoiber that's on here. He's been breeding his dogs a long time, and you can recognize one of his dogs. And if you breed to one of his dogs, it's going to throw his look. And Grim is a good example of that.
Mhm.
You can see, Bistro's a good example of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so.
It,
You can see these dogs have that dog in their pedigree when you look at them.
you're right. And it just trips me out because sometimes I will just be scrolling and I'll see something and I look, and in my head I say that's got my stuff in it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Right. That's what I
I'll
mean.
go look, and it might be 3, 4 generations back,
Mhm.
but there it
But you can
is.
tell.
There it
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
it
is.
Um,
goes right there.
and that's when my stuff was not even as tightly bred. So I'm actually
Yeah.
kind of excited about working with some breeders again, to share some of my work. And let I'm going to continue to do my thing and breed for my style. Um, but I'm pretty excited to share my work and let people kind of get creative with it within reason. I don't I'm not going to approve any Merle breedings. I'm obviously not going the exotic
You're a
route.
purist.
Still selective, but I'm not like, oh,
Yeah.
it's this blood or that blood. Nope, can't
Mhm.
do that. I'm pretty
Yeah.
open minded.
Nice,
I like
nice.
that. Hey, we had a question a while ago, and I want to ask this. I've been listening. I've been soaking this up. I'm loving this. You're spitting some really, really good information because that's how you start, and you've done it, and you've shown through the progress. When I see one of your dogs, I know exactly where it came from. You ironed out this look, an awesome job. But someone asked if you plan on getting back in the ring, if you plan on campaigning the dog again, or if your sons are into it or anything like that. Do you
Well,
plan on entering the ring?
no, it's a good question. So part of the reason why I took a little break was because I was, having a lot of kids. Uh, I got four right now, and then
Oh wow,
another one on the way. So, but
Overtime.
my son
basketball
is,
team.
yeah, literally. My son Jimmy, he's a big helper with the yard, and
Yeah.
at a recent show, I just kind of threw. He thought he was just coming to the show to just hang out, and I handed him a dog. I said, "Get in there." He's like, "Well,
Nice.
what do I do?" And he was pretty clueless, but he did his best with a totally raw prospect, and what was cool about it too was the kid that he went up. My dog got second place, but the
Yeah.
kid that he was going up against, he was the son of a friend of mine that I used to show against
Wow.
10,
Both.
15 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And we used to battle it out. And now, you know,
Man.
almost,
Surreal moment.
15 years later, there's our sons, in the
Yeah.
ring. And so I shared with them some of the experiences that the dogs and the showing had blessed me with, basically, and all the relationships, the people that I had met. And I could see like his eyes kind of like light up and the light bulb in his head. Oh, wow. Like that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
me,
Peaking that
myself,
interest.
campaigning, like I said, that was a grind. I was at shows every weekend. When I would run my numbers at the end of the year, I mean, I'm pretty sure we exceeded $50,000 in
Wow.
um, campaign
Travel expenses.
God.
expenses, and there
And that
was a
was back
lot
in
more.
2000. And that was back in 2008.
In 2008 was when I first started. I started campaigning in 2012,
Okay.
and then I did 2013, 14, and 15.
Okay.
And so that was 4 straight years of just nonstop. And at the time, my kids didn't go to school yet. They were so small.
Yeah.
And then my brother lived with me. And so if I went and my wife went with me, my brother would be home.
Nice. The whole
And then
team.
as I started having the kids, I'd be home more, but I would send my brother out. And, now my brother's working all the time. And so, I don't have that
Yeah.
luxury.
Yeah.
Uh, that extra person is a huge deal when you're a dog breeder, because a lot of people don't truly realize what they're signing up for when
No.
you get a yard full of dogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
the dogs don't give a shit if you're sick, if it's Christmas, if you want to go see your
No pun
family.
intended.
That they're gonna need to eat, they're gonna need
Yeah.
water, they're gonna need to get cleaned up after, and
Exactly.
so it's a very demanding thing.
Man,
Um,
it really is.
so having a crew and everybody being on board is a big important thing. I personally, when I don't even know where to find shows these days. I used to go like directly to, bullyshows.com, and that would have everything. And, I've been looking at getting a few dogs back out there. And when I look, I'm like, okay, well, where do I even find these things at this point? And then when I do, I'm like, man, I've got to go how far? Like just to get
Yeah.
some reps, there's not a lot of ABKC
There's
action out
not really
here.
a good place
There's
to look
not on
at
the west
what all
side.
shows are available.
No. And so, I do some WBA, and You know, if the ABKC shows are within my radius, I'm not going to have to be gone too long, then yeah, you know, I'll get some dogs in the ring. As far as campaigning, I really don't have any desire to do that. But I do have a stretch of consecutive generations of grand champions right now that is at 6. Homie was a
Nice.
grand champion, Lock and Load, Beastro, Bus, Bandit, and then Badman. So that's 6
Yes, yes,
consecutive generations
Yeah, come on.
of grand
Huge accolades,
champions.
man. Congratulations.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
And I got
Yeah.
some nice sons of Badman that I would love to, you
So
know,
7, yeah,
keep that
7
going.
loading. Absolutely. Hey, Robert, I got a question for you. So you have all this knowledge, you have all this experience, you have this lineage. Have you ever thought about getting into judging?
I judged for the ABKC for, I think maybe 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, that was I did. I think I started in like 2013,
Yeah.
and then I would get a lot of people asking and for me to come judge their shows,
yeah.
and I would generally have to say no because of my schedule. And then there was like some other individuals that I had quite a bit of respect for that wanted me to judge. And with the way the ABKC exclusivity
Yeah.
worked, it was kind of limiting my opportunities to do some of that. And so I respectfully resigned.
Yeah.
I think in like 27, in maybe 2016, 2017.
Okay.
I
Man.
still do some judging for WBA.
Nice.
And then whenever Andrea Selvaggi from the EBKC wants me to come out to Europe, I always give that consideration. And then you know, there's a couple other individuals that, you know, I've given some thought to it as well. I just don't have a lot of time to get out and do that. I try to, you know, help people by through example.
Yeah.
I do have a coaching program, Bully Market University, where every
Nice.
Sunday I got a group of guys that you know, we've been meeting up every Sunday on Zoom calls similar to this. I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now. It's a little more practical for me to do something like this versus take 3 or 4 days away from my family
Right.
and you know, go somewhere like that.
So it's a
Yeah.
way to mentor and to you know, be helpful within the community without it becoming so intrusive in your life that you almost lose the passion for it, I think.
Well, and the thing was too, I loved the traveling aspect of judging. I loved meeting new people and experiencing the different cultures because I really tried to do focus on like out of the country.
Mhm.
But I've shown a lot. I've bred a lot, and I've judged a fair amount. And I really like to breed.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. If I were to
Yeah.
choose out of all those things, I prefer to create.
Yeah. I like that.
And if you're doing a lot of judging and you're doing a lot of showing,
It's harder to create.
it is going to be harder for you to create. And
Mhm.
that when I mentioned, you know, the 50,000 that I was spending campaigning, I'm like, okay, you know, essentially when I file the taxes, that's a marketing expense. And I'm doing all this marketing, but
Yeah.
where's my producing? Like I'm missing
Yeah.
out on that here.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I mean, hats off to folks that they can get out to the number of shows that they can, but still be able to breed. But yeah, I think that it obviously puts a damper on one or the other. Like the more you breed, the less you show. And it's the more you show, the less you're able to breed.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. I mean, but it's 100% true. And I like that you didn't force yourself to do both so heavily at the same time. And you realize one of them is the one that you're really geared towards, and you took it. You did it.
Yeah, there was a time that I was doing all three, and man, it was a lot. And
Yeah.
Can
yeah, I had
imagine.
a lot more. I had a couple brothers living with me, and so maybe one would be there taking care of the yard. I might be judging in Italy, and my brother might be showing at a show in
Wow.
Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Man,
And
it's almost like omnipresence.
well, yeah, I mean, I would kind of get in what I called the war room and come up with a winning campaign, and it's truly a skill. And the first year that I campaigned, I made some mistakes. I believe that had I had more experience, I probably could have pulled that off in 2012 with Beastro. But I learned from those mistakes, and I came back the next year better, and we took the next three in a row.
Nice.
It's crazy. Well, Travis, he's asked, he's like, what your thoughts are, because we've talked about the past for the breed and how it's evolved since you started. What are your thoughts on the direction that it's heading presently?
It's really hard to say. I've seen so many different derivatives. I think ultimately people are going to continue to kind of offshoot. Um, so it depending on what he's referring to. I do think there's a lot of room for the breed itself to grow as far as global awareness. But I don't think that we will ever have what I refer to as the golden era, when consistently the shows would be 500, 1,000 plus people. There's economic factors going on.
Social media influences.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Social media, before when I first got started, there was MySpace, but we would pretty much go to the message boards,
Yeah.
Oh, that's what Tim
Yeah.
was saying too.
the MSN and the Elite Edge
Elite
boards.
Edge,
and
yeah.
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 and then there was like a level of like gatekeeping going on there, where people, like you couldn't like do too much crazy stuff, or else like
Someone
that
would get you.
group would like kick you out,
Mhm.
and you didn't
They
want to
would.
get kicked
They
out,
would.
You were the moderator. You were
So
extra.
with the social media, it definitely gave people the ability to kind of just do whatever they wanted to do. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think we're going to see more of the same. My wife breeds Dalmatians. I'm looking at a couple puppies right now, and there's regular, standard Dalmatians, but then there's people that do fluffy Dalmatians, long hair.
Yes, I saw that.
And
Really?
then there's
Okay.
tricolors and lemons.
Mhm.
And so I think that people that are involved in the American Bully um, see what is happening here, and probably think it's pretty crazy. And I think they're right to an extent. The bully community definitely kind of takes it to another level when it comes to the experimenting,
Yeah.
but other breeds are doing experimenting as well.
For sure. Oh, absolutely. That is a definite fact. And it doesn't, it almost, I feel, because there's so many folks that, because they don't know that, they feel like the American Bully has no hope whatsoever. That it is just this derelict spaceship out in the open, but other breeds have the same issues. It's fad breeding. It happens. It
Yeah.
happens with every single breed. So it's not isolated just to our community. Do our
No.
community, are there some issues that come out of it? Absolutely. But again, it's not something that's isolated just to our breed.
I will say I do like the progression of our breed. And I'm one of those people that, like, my program included and anybody else's, I'm not afraid to be 100% objective. I'm not afraid to call things for what they are, and I would be the first to say that, like, I don't like where we're headed. And I love the old school dogs. I do, but I do like the progression of our breed. I think we're headed in the right direction. I think, we've had a bully look for a long time, but I think we're still dialing it in. But I think we're dialing in the right direction, and that's just my opinion.
I think there's a lot of progress in areas that has been made. Me personally, I really like to focus on my program. And what other people are going to do, other people are going to do.
Yeah.
No matter how much you get on Facebook and talk about it, that's not going to change the direction. In fact, in a lot of cases, the resistance creates strength in the opposition, right? Because they're going to kind of,
publicity is bad publicity, right?
they're going to rally against it. Even when you work out in the gym, resistance is what's going to build up your strength. And so, I really try not to keep up with the Joneses too much and just focus on what I'm doing here and
Yeah.
do that to the best of my ability.
No,
I love it.
Yeah. And again, I don't know. So what I want everybody that's listening right now to do after the show, go and take a look at not just his personal page, but the Bully Market page.
100%.
And just scroll, man. I'm telling you, there's the consistency, especially the head structure, the neck, the shoulder set, like it's back to back to back.
And then 6 generations of grand champions. 6 generations.
Man,
And
hats off to you for that, dude.
Yeah.
As a
That's
breeder,
crazy.
Thank you.
I think we all hope as breeders that we can get to a place where we can say we've got 6 generations of grand champions in our program. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a hell of an accomplishment. Hey, I was thinking while you were talking about a moment my wife and I had in the last 24 hours where, like, I get the last peek into the puppy room at night and everything's nice and clean and tucked away and the puppies are piled up, and then I get up at 5:30 in the morning, let all the dogs go in there and they've been finger painting all night. And it's like, what is going on in here? Damn it.
What happened? Oh my gosh. It's
been through a lot of that.
Yeah, it's a messy
business. You know what I mean? And I have another kind of respect for somebody that has put in those man hours. It's a different deal.
For that length of time, absolutely. Now,
like I said, I really like to create, and I got some art behind me here. Unfortunately, I'm not skilled enough to create things like this, but I do enjoy creating some dogs.
Yeah.
And the whelping process to me is the most fun. It's kind of like the pinnacle of, you have a vision of what you hope these puppies are going to turn out like, and then you do a breeding, and first you're hoping that she's even pregnant, and then okay, she is pregnant, and then, like, all right, now you're hoping for a healthy, successful yield, and then they're on the ground and you're raising them up and you don't know what they're going to be like yet, and it's that little mystery, even with as consistent as I've gotten, and I do have a pretty good idea of what they will look like. It's still very intriguing for me, and I really enjoy that part. And so, I know a lot of people, they whelp a litter or two, and they're like, man, like I need a break. Like
This is
I
so
really get these puppies out of here. And I'm just like, I love that process. I've never really outsourced any whelping outside of my team. I always do that
Yeah,
myself.
I
that
I
is
think
like
I
that.
think picking puppies is the most. It can be the most brutal part, but to me, the most intriguing part of all of this. I think that's where a lot of people make their mistakes, man. Um, getting into like, well, I've already got this much money in it, and now
Mhm.
people are, beating down the door about these puppies, and it's like, well,
So I have to get
I
mine.
try to get, we want them at 10 weeks or whatever, and it's like, I don't have my mind made up, and then people make bad decisions, and I think picking puppies is at the top of the most important things you can do in your program. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think that when it comes to selective breeding, it starts all the way at the top with the stock that you, even if you didn't produce it, you have to select some foundation stock from somebody. And then you're doing your breedings selectively. And then, of course, you're selectively choosing your puppies. And when I was really trying to lock in what I have now, I was much more, I felt a lot more pressure to keep basically everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I would
Know the
sell
feeling,
very
Jay.
little. And, sometimes I'd raise a dog up for, yeah, I'd keep several dogs out of a litter and I'd raise them up and be like, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and pet home this one. It didn't quite turn out as I had hoped. I've got the two sisters and a brother here. I'm going to rock with these ones.
yeah,
So I think in the beginning, it is when you are trying to really solidify your program. If you want to truly have a program that's going to withstand the test of time, then those breedings in the beginning of that building phase are very important. And then as you refine your look more and the results are much more predictable, then the pressure is kind of taken off a little bit because you could just make another one.
I
Yeah.
like that.
I like what Sinatra
Yeah.
said right here. He said, I always suggest to wait on
Mhm.
making your picks and don't rush to sell, especially if it's your first few breedings. Yeah, Sinatra, that's where I'm at right now. Like my wife's like, so what are we doing? And I'm like, we ain't doing nothing. We're getting I can't even I'm having trouble narrowing down my
Mhm.
litter right now that I've got. I mean, like out of 10 pups, 5 males, 5 females, like I can narrow it down a hair, but not much. And
Not
so
right now. They're still young.
yeah,
That's
they're
a
so
good
young, but it's like it's a good problem to have. Everybody
it's
tells
a
me
good
that.
problem to have
Problem.
for sure.
But every day I go in there and I'm like, yeah, this one right here is sneaking up from behind.
Oh no,
Uh,
yeah, because they're evolving, and that's the
that,
thing. It's like so many people are so hung up on doing it so early because they're like,
Yeah.
look at this spread. You see them like,
Puppies
look at this
change so
spread, and
much
then like,
so fast, man.
and
Just
then
as
your
soon
run
as you're
gets bigger
not
than everybody
watching
else.
one,
It's
you're
like,
like, where'd you come from?
Well, that's true. And one of the rules of thumb that I have, even at this stage, is what I try to do is I try to determine, I'll pick the dogs that I think I don't want first,
Yeah,
right?
huh,
Not to keep for myself, but if I know like, all right, this is not in the running here, I do try and make that decision sooner than later, because when you are selling to companion homes, there's you're not just selling them a dog, you're selling them an experience.
mm-hmm.
yeah,
The experience of raising a puppy, right? And there's a lot of people that once a dog is 4 months old, no, that's too old for me. Like I want a little puppy that's going to grow
yeah,
up with my
Um,
kid. So I try to determine, those as soon as possible. But I really like to, I never make a pick if it's still in the whelping box, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because like the whelping box is essentially like in with a fish, if it's in a tiny little fish tank,
Yeah.
it's not going to develop, right? So I like to get my puppies out at a nice early after 2 vaccinations. I
Mhm.
want to get them outside because then their activity and
Their muscle development. Mhm.
their water intake and their food intake, and then by then they're starting to get all their, if they've got any parasites in there,
Mhm.
because yeah, if you're making picks before they're out of the box, you haven't really seen the movement.
Mhm.
They haven't really got to kind of shift into that next gear as they
Yeah.
do once they start getting outside. So I really like to,
I agree. I agree with that 100%. I also agree with what you said about, if you have selected some that maybe not in the running, to go ahead and
Yeah.
figure out what you're going to do there to allow whoever gets those dogs to have the experience, get the most of the experience, that they're paying for, or their companion home, or just whatever you decide to do.
yeah, because if you wait till the dog's a year old, and then you decide it's just a companion, I mean,
It's your companion at that point.
a breeder might appreciate a dog that's a year
Yeah.
old and can be
Because they
bred
can
within the
kind of
next
see
6
where pet.
months.
Mhm.
But a companion person, they're like, no, I need a puppy, like,
Yeah, I need to raise
so you're
this.
gonna end up so like I look at it like, even if a dog is not necessarily the most beautiful dog, um, you're still providing them with the experience of raising a small, quality puppy, uh, that the average companion home cherishes that experience on a whole
Yeah.
different level than a breeder does, that just ultimately becomes a little desensitized to this whole process.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because for them, it's a member of their family. And while I know a lot of breeders, they have certain dogs within their program that are kind of, those dogs are considered members of their family, but the whole pack can't be. It's like you don't live in a world where you can have 30 dogs in a house with you. It's crazy.
A hundred
The
percent.
problem with it is just like giving me angst. But yeah, people that don't breed, that the mindset is entirely different. And that's their family. That's their child. It's like that point. Yeah, no, I like the way that you've wrapped your brain around that and are like veering how you home your puppies in that fashion. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's probably, like, as many championships and things as we've won. The most rewarding thing that I get, seeing my kids, especially my youngest right now, with my dog. And like my kid could be so upset about something, and in comes his dog. He calls it his dog, Badman.
It's
And
his dog.
immediately he goes from being like upset about whatever it is to just so happy.
Yeah.
And he's just, the first thing he does when he wakes up, he looks for his dog. The first thing he does when he gets home from school, he looks for his dog.
That's
Like,
cool,
he
man.
hates waking up in the morning, and I'll be like, it's time to get up, and like he don't want to get out of bed, so I bring my dog in,
Now he's
and
ready.
I say, look, there's Badman, and he's
That
hopping
ain't
up
your
out of
dog.
bed.
That ain't your
I don't know how
dog.
to tell you this, man, but that ain't your dog anymore.
That ain't your dog, bro.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
and
that's
just
his dog
knowing
now.
that's the experience that I have, and knowing that that's the experience that I am providing to families, man, it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
It really does.
Man, that's exactly what my wife and I say when people ask us, like, how do you raise these dogs? You spend every day with them, and then you love them, and you play with them, and you socialize them, and then you just let them go. And I'm like, listen, it's understandable that you would ask that question, like, how do we do it? But at the end of the day, I know what my dogs mean to my household, and to think that we're providing that for somebody else's family, I take that very seriously,
Mhm.
and that's a big deal. And so, knowing what my dog's going to mean to somebody else, it makes it easier for me to let him go, as long as it's a good home, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
100%. And early on, when I had homie, lock and load, bistro, bus all at the same time,
Wow.
I
Like it's
I
hard.
had moved on from breeding lock and load for the most part. I still had intentions of bringing him back in the future after I did some things with my line,
Mhm.
but I knew, like, I didn't have a lot of plans with them. But I would tell myself, I can't sell my OGs.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was betraying them,
Yeah.
right? But when they finally passed away, and I thought about it some more, I was I felt like I actually betrayed them by holding on to them that long.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, you what you said earlier, when you have X amount of dogs, they can't all be in the house,
Yes.
right? Especially if you've got like alpha males.
Yes.
And so I think that we struggle because we obviously love the dogs and the memories with them, but I think sometimes it's more honorable to go ahead and retire that dog in a home where they can be the main character
Yeah.
Mhm.
on somebody's couch
Yeah.
instead of a role player that's not quite getting as much attention as your premier
Mhm.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
That
so
makes
true,
sense.
man.
No, we do. Like I know that I know several friends of mine that that's when they retire a dog. A lot of them, it's like it's retired to their mother or their sibling or somewhere where they can still see them very often and still be able to like make sure that they're in great homes. But it's also people that have loved them already, like
Yeah.
coming over to the house and hanging out. It's like, oh man, I love your dog, and like, okay, well, when that dog
Do you
retires,
want him? Yeah.
hey, right, and of course the dog's already familiar with themselves. Like there's a way to do it, but yeah, I think that that's a brilliant conclusion to come to. It's just like
Yeah.
because as you're moving towards campaigning these and spending more time with these up and comers, you don't want to back burner these dogs that was their lifestyle up and
Right,
you know what I mean? Like they deserve that lifestyle. Period. Like
right. Like, if you can't give it to them, honor them by placing them with someone who can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It's hard. I'm sure it is so difficult to do, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, you've got to
I
do what's
was
best for them. It's about the dogs or it's about nothing at all.
I was trying to explain this to my wife because we were foreshadowing into the future about down the line, and having this conversation, and I was trying to explain to her that you know that's the issue. Once you have so many dogs, it becomes a timeshare thing, right? And
Yep.
then it's like, well, these dogs have done all this for us, and we want them to be here all their days and all that. And it's like, yeah, but you got such a revolving door at the front of your program that they wind up getting a lot of the time. And then, yeah, they're retired here, but they're not, like you said, the main character in somebody's movie anymore. So it's like, they deserve that too. That's a good way to look at that. I might use that later. Thank you.
Absolutely.
She's watching right now. She's already expecting it. She's ready.
Yeah,
Oh
she's ready.
gosh.
That's all right. That's all right. It still rang true no matter what. You
No,
know
it
what I mean?
absolutely is. It
So,
absolutely does ring true.
It
but that's
is.
the hard part too. You
It's-
love these dogs, you build these things with them, and it's like, man, that's my dude. But if it's your dude, then you need
do
to
what's
think
best for your
about
dude.
his quality of life too, and not just being something you just hold on to, but like I said, the main character in somebody's movie.
Yeah, I mean, our sentimentality can't basically override what is best for them. This is not, it can't be purely based on sentimentality, our sentimentality, because otherwise you're not doing the dog justice. And
Well, and that's why, this breeding thing it's not for the weak, mentally or emotionally. Um, it's quite the revolving door.
Mm.
The community today in 5 years, probably only 20% of the people that are in it now will still be in it in about 5 years. And just, a lot goes into it with, what we were just talking about and losses that you
Yeah.
take. And it's tough. But if your goal is a program, then you have to make those hard decisions. And, there's nothing wrong with just being a good pet owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's really not. Like, you could be a part of the community, and you don't have to do a bunch of breeding, if that's uh, too difficult. But I've seen a lot of people, take losses and just never bounce back from them. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate because, through my tenure doing this, I've seen a lot of programs that I felt had great potential and could have really been solid contributors, especially because they were from like different strains of dogs that were still really nice. I think over time we've really kind of there's a lot of people doing a lot of the same stuff. So, but that's just the way it goes. In the business world, it's kind of the same. Most businesses don't last beyond 2 years, let alone 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a lot different, and there's even more emotional aspects to it. So,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
it's not for everybody.
no, and Angel actually asked a good question because you talked about how after at a certain age you looked at your boys and that was the moment where you're like, well, do I rehome them? No, I'm going to keep them. No, I'm going to keep them. Well, Angel's asking what age, with that in mind, and now your brain's working a little bit differently. What age would you consider rehoming them? Like, what age would you say they're passing the baton? Like, what factor do they?
Well, it's not going to be so much about the age as it's going to be, all right, am I going to be utilizing this dog in my program? How extensively am I going to be utilizing it? Can I get it in a guardianship home where I can still utilize the dog, but it can be in a better, a home where it's going to be the main character?
Yeah.
How much sentimental, you know, I don't want to say value. How much sentimental weight does this dog hold with the family?
Yeah.
Right.
And if it's not like way up there, then get it to somebody who it will be,
Yeah.
right? Because they deserve that. Now, if it's up there, then find a way to do your thing and keep it for the duration of its life. I got Beastro was never going to go anywhere. He meant too much to me and to my kids, and so many experiences, not just in the dogs, but with personal development
Hmm.
and growth that transpired within me in my journey with Beastro. Like, he was never going to go anywhere. I got offered like $250,000 for him when he was like 5, 6 years old.
Wow.
And I was just like, nah, like, I can't sell him. Like, I'll sell you one of his brothers. I'll sell you one of his sons. And I sent some dogs out to the guy that got Magoo. After I turned him down for Beastro, the news came out that he bought Magoo. So obviously he was serious.
Mhm.
So it's like I said, it's not so much about the age, but when you're balancing your program, what type of utilization is going to take place there. If it's a female, I mean, typically, 2 or 3 breedings, you should have what you need.
Mhm.
And then with a male, you could always freeze semen. So, I feel like the decision can be made fairly early on.
Yeah.
That's dang. No, that's the kind of mindset that I mean, I feel like have you always kind of, I know that like pet homing the dogs after a certain point, like that came a little bit later, but how much later would you say like that mindset in your tenure kind of hit?
Well, from the beginning, if the dog wasn't quite,
Yeah.
if the dog was lacking, then obviously it needed to go into a pet home. But it was really like, because I knew like Homie, Lock and Load was a year younger than Homie.
Mhm.
Beastro was a year younger than Lock and Load. And those were like my main guys. And even when they were like 5, 6 years old, I knew there was going to be this patch where it was going to get a little rough for me
Yeah.
because their age being so close together, I knew that like there was going to be this patch where I was going to lose them all in a relatively
Yeah.
close period of time.
Ugh.
And once it finally happened, I started to reflect a little bit more on it, and I was like, man, I should have just done it like this. And
Yeah.
that was about, I would say, 8 years ago.
Yeah. Dang. And it is a long time to have a dog. And I mean, you've mentioned before that you breed with health and durability in mind. And I mean, your dogs have, lived good long lives. And sometimes that adds a little bit to the to the pain behind it, you know.
Oh yeah.
Well, I haven't
Yeah.
had to do that yet. I haven't had to lose my first generation. So um yeah, that's gonna be something.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough. And that's gonna be kind of what defines you as a breeder. How fit for this are you really? Because like, I hate to say it, but like I'm kind of numb to loss.
Yeah.
I've experienced so much of it that it's just part of this, and it's part of life.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
I
a
can
level
relate.
of stoicism that we have to have
Yeah.
as breeders, because if we don't, then you just simply won't last.
No.
It's even when they're just small puppies. You're so excited about this, and then maybe something happens, and you're putting a lot into this little puppy, and you think it's gonna make it, and you think it's there, and then it kind of goes the other way, and it's like, dang, that's tough. That's really
Yeah.
tough.
It's an
And
emotional.
Well, for me,
as-
I agree with that 100%. That is where you find out kind of where your head's at. You know, I've taken so much loss in my human life that it's given me a different understanding of death and loss. It's the one thing we all have to do. So I've come to terms with it better than most because I've dealt with it so much.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the dogs for me. Like it is sad for me. I won't say I'm numb to it, but I will say that like I accept that, it comes to them all, just like it comes
Yeah.
to us all.
It's
And so
inevitable.
it's like
It's happening.
it's easy for me to go, dang man, what a loss, what a beautiful dog, what a great experience I had with it, or this person or this dog, or whatever. And now and here we are. But I do have a different level of acceptance for death, with the dogs and everything else. So
well, yeah, it hits different in these dogs. Like there's so many
it does.
businesses out there that like a business deal goes bad, and you take a loss. You lose some money and you make some more money, but in this particular endeavor, you're when you take a loss, sometimes that means it's a loss of life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
considering that they're have a relatively short lifespan in comparison to a human being, there you're dealing with a fair amount of loss there. Even if your dogs are living to 10, 15 years after you've been doing this long enough, it really starts to happen because like
Yeah.
when I started out, like I didn't have any loss because all my dogs were relatively young. You know, you
Yeah.
lose a couple puppies here and there, but none of those OGs. And then when that really started to come down, and you know, it tested me, and ultimately, you know, had to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Respect.
It is about the rebound and how you persevere, how you make that a lesson in evolving, you know, how you proceed. So that's man.
And such is life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's kind of what the
Absolutely.
point I was making right there. It's such as life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What a sad conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, but you
Well,
know that's perspective
That's the
too,
real.
because
It is
really it's
so
not sad.
I'll tell you,
oh, it's definitely still sad. It just
It's
it's
sad, but
when Beastro died, I couldn't even actually.
it's real, dude. It's real.
oh yeah.
You know,
Damn it, man. I'm sorry.
uh, yeah, actually, right. I've been able to speak about Bistro without getting that feeling, but
Yeah.
thinking about how that first couple, that first few months, I couldn't even speak his name.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was tough. And
I got one here. I don't know how I do, man. My boy Pressure, man. He's been
Yeah.
such a blessing to our family. And it'd be hard to say his name after he left for sure.
Well, yeah, and
you
with
know, and it was like that, and I just ultimately had to shift to gratitude
Yeah,
and
that's all you can
and
do.
celebration.
there we
Yeah.
go. Absolutely. Because what
Caleb went through that last year with
Yeah.
Genesis.
Yeah.
You know, that was a tough blow, man. And
Absolutely.
you know, you did what we all do, what you have to do, which is just go from mourning
persevere.
to gratitude, and just be thankful for the time you had, and I mean that's all you can do, you know. So
100%.
Yeah.
No,
He's
it's a blessing. You know, it's all a blessing. And so you know, it's a tough part of it, but ultimately,
Helios.
it's a big blessing.
yeah, Rodney Thomason says it feels like a part of you dies as well. Yeah, it does, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean those were years where that was sort of like what you were dedicated to, who you were dedicated to, and it's to have that kind of missing. It is a whole.
Well, with the thing with Bistro for me, Bistro in specific, uh, you know, a lot of people saw a lot of the awards that he
Yeah.
won and the champions, but it was this personal development that occurred within me where like my journey with him was I feel like I really transitioned from a boy to a man
Yeah. Yeah.
and really started to look within myself
Yeah.
and I grew so much and so that was a big part of it and
Yeah. Growing up.
I resonate completely with when they said, you know, part of you dies with that. So it was a lot of fond memories with old Bistro. Great dog.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. A dog for the ages. And you know,
Yeah.
it's knowing that you went through that and still continue to make the impact that you continue to make. I mean, you just kept creating. You just kept creating, and he was part of that. So
Yeah.
that's you're his legacy in all reality.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of what happens with the dog's legacy is going to be predicated on who's in control of it.
100%.
Um, and I didn't take his lightly. I really put I really put a lot into that legacy. A lot of sacrifices, and you know, I did the best I could. Looking back, there was some things that I wish I would have done more of, like documenting the process, specifically YouTube and video, more videos, you know, because it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm happy with the work that we did with that boy.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so expansive. Like, and again, like you may not even know it until you're scrolling through Facebook and you're like, that's that's a
Yeah.
Beastro, like grandchild or child or great grandchild in my dog's case. It's like it's that's gotta be just so validating. You know what I mean? To be
Well,
like this is the fruition of the work that I started and that, you know, these dogs, especially, you know, dogs like Beastro were a part of, and that's got to be so cool.
well, you know, it is, and but I will say that one of my transitions, one of my big areas of growth with him was, you know, to really validate myself by the decisions I make and the work that I put in, and not care about what the crowd had to say about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, with a dog that was that successful, there was a lot of hate too. There was a lot
Yeah.
of people that loved him, but there was a lot of people that you know were very critical. In some cases, those criticisms were valid. In other cases, it was just, you know, people uh,
Getting
hating. You know,
Doing
and
what haters do. Yeah.
but that was really when I mentioned like the campaign and the year he got number 2 versus the years he got number 1. I just the years that the year that he got number 1, I mean number 2, I was a little too involved with the keyboard, and I was letting the
Yeah.
outside noise get to me, and I would start to do this, and I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan and a Lakers
Damn
fan,
right.
and there was something that ticked with me at one point where I was like, you're wasting your time here. Kobe, there's stadiums full of people chanting Kobe sucks.
Yeah.
Kobe sucks. And he doesn't stop to say, "No, wait a minute. I
Yeah.
don't suck. I averaged 28 points a game last season.
Gonna
I
jump
had 7 rebounds a
Yeah.
game." And
in.
he doesn't start trying to like defend himself with words. He
Build
just
crowd.
put in the work to
Yeah.
become great.
Yep.
And
Gotta meet
it
it.
was a point where I was like, all right, get off the internet and just get to work. Be so good that you can't be denied,
Damn right. Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
The Bomba mentality. That's, you know,
Yes.
right.
And I like, you guys might have heard me use the phrase, it's always a bull market. And I liken that to the Mamba mentality, where, you know, it's always a bull market is not just about producing bulldogs and bullied dogs. It's about it's about striving and for becoming better, a better version of yourself, uh, no matter how hard things get. And when things do get hard, you continue to persevere and come out the other side a better man, a better person. And so the slogan is not just some cheap words that I threw together, although over time it did kind of take on a bigger meaning
Yeah.
to it than when I first started, because when I first started, I was buying a lot of gold and silver and stocks and different things. And then I was telling my friend, I was trying to come up with a kennel name. And I was like, man, I got my dogs here. I've got my E-Trade and my gold and my silver. Man, it's gonna be a bull market. It's gonna be a bully market. And I was like,
Hell yeah.
that's the name. Because I
Oh,
was still
man.
trying to figure it out. I had
Mhm.
some corny names for
Oh,
like
do you remember any of them?
Ken. One was, and I say this respectfully, if anybody is creme de la creme kennels, that that was one of my ideas. And if that's anybody's name, I think it's great. It wasn't for me.
I
Uh,
love how you put that.
but I said, yeah, it's gonna be a bully market. I said, that's the name. And it's always gonna be a bull market. And I just kind of ran with it.
And look at
Hell
it now,
yeah.
man. Huge respect to it. Household name, literally
It
household
is.
name, man.
It is.
This has
Thank
been an
you.
honor interviewing you. Seriously, I've absolutely loved tonight.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. I
No,
appreciate that.
yeah, I'm glad
I
you.
appreciate you guys, having me on, and
Yeah.
hopefully there's been some value in here
Oh
for the
yeah,
Oh
people
yeah,
oh
no
listening.
doubt.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
been great, man, and it's
Sure.
been an honor to finally meet you. Feel like I've known a lot about a lot of different things you've had in your program and in your path over the years, and finally getting to meet you has been great. So
just think
glad
if
to
you're
have you.
if you
Likewise.
went with the
Yeah.
creme de la creme, like what?
Yeah, I'm changing my kennel name right now. Creekbank Kennel is done. It's
Yeah.
creme de la creme from now on.
Make
Yeah.
sure no one else has it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to check it for. No,
there's so many different names. Someone might be using it at this
You
point.
never
I'm
know.
telling you.
You see some
That
crazy names, man.
that's funny, man. Not
Yeah.
that that's crazy or anything,
Not that it's crazy. Well,
Caleb.
Bruce, I think we typically have a question we like to kind of have towards the end of the show, so that way we can kind of go out with a this positive vibe, because again we are all about reach one, teach one.
Absolutely.
So if you're ready, Bruce.
Route. Hey man, look, since we old school, right? We old school. So if it's someone getting started in the bully game, the dog game, or whatever, you know, and what kind of advice, would you give them?
Seek a good mentor. Uh, a mentor that has accomplished the things that you aim to accomplish,
I
and
like
really
that.
lean into that. Someone that is trustworthy, and because a good mentor, a good coach is going to collapse your time frames in which you're able to achieve your goals. Trial and error and learning the hard way is, sometimes it's what has to happen, and what a
Yes,
lot of us, for the school of the hard knocks, that's how we've done it. But this is such a long game, and we are dealing with live beings. And so take it seriously, take your time, and just know what you're getting yourself into. If you're not willing to commit 10 years plus to this thing, then maybe you should just own a couple nice dogs and
that's
be
right.
a good pet home. But
There
if
you
you
go.
are willing to put in that level of time and care and effort, then best of luck to you. I think that anybody can do it. It doesn't take a super genius. And similar with most business, it just takes someone that is able to persevere and push through. But the main thing is really having a good solid mentor in your back pocket.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Great
That
live,
man.
man.
Yes,
I
sir.
really appreciate you again for coming on and talking with us. It's been something I've been considering for a long time. I was also always afraid to ask because, you've been doing this for so long and you're just such a big name in the community. I was afraid.
I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a guy that loves these dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I know we do. So again, thank you so much for spending time with us and talking dogs with us. And I'm excited to see what your program has in store for the future because I know what you've done so far, and I know that you've got more to give.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you reaching out, and for anybody that listens to it, don't tell yourself a story that I'm unreachable. Feel free to reach out. I'm here to help as best as I can.
Yeah. On that
Cool.
note, I always try to keep up with everybody that I meet on the show. So looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right,
Yeah.
Well,
gentlemen.
it was nice meeting all you guys,
Yeah.
and once again,
You, buddy.
thanks for having me on.
All right.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
coming.
All right.
Good
Good
Have a good
night,
night.
y'all.
Y'all have a
All
blessed
right.
Good
night.
night, everybody.
All right. Bye.